Hello, welcome to a new project that I'm starting called the Ikki Tousen Summary/Retrospective. I'll be going over a volume and episode summarizing the events of the chapter and then giving my thoughts on that volume. Note this is covering the manga as the anime is vastly different from the source material, putting in some bizarre implication between Hakufu and Koken, as well as kind of missing the point behind certain events in the story. The reason I wanted to do this was because I wanted to somewhat give Ikki Tousen the benefit of the doubt. Well, not even the benefit of the doubt, I wanted to clear up its name a bit. As Ikki Tousen has gotten this reputation for just being an edgy manga with no substance, despite the fact that the series actually does have a lot of substance in it. So this is mainly me trying my best to tell people how this series has substance, and this is mainly covering the manga because the anime kind of missed the point, and I'll go over these misconceptions that caused these things in the first place. Without further ado, let's start chapter 1. Chapter 1 begins with us seeing Hakufu's daily routine, as well as some of the grievances she has towards her daily life. We get a good look at her character at school till suddenly she finds a man behind her provoking her to fight him, then leaving the school. Hakufu follows him and the man begins to talk, though Hakufu doesn't understand anything of what he says and just desires a fight. We learn a bit about the power ranking system as well as the Magatamas throughout the fight. We end the chapter with Hakufu's mother telling her that she must go to Tokyo. Chapter 2 begins with a look at Nanya Academy, with a stone saying the theme of the series, improve yourself and break everything else. We are introduced to Koken and Sanji this chapter. We then see Hakufu beating up students because her mother told her to try and beat up sturdy students as a good first impression. Way to go, Mom. Her cousin hears about this from a random student and rushes to see what she's doing. However, Hakufu only needs to defeat one student left. Suddenly, a really imposing man comes out prompting Hakufu to attack him. She does, however, it seems the attack has no effect, and so the man sends her flying with just a smack. Hakufu and Koken catch back up with each other over lunch. Koken warns Hakufu about fighting Gokushu, again even talking about the huge difference between their rank. However, at the end of the chapter we see Gokushu fall to his knees from Hakufu's kick from earlier. We see Gokushu taking attacks from random people to try and understand what Hakufu did to him, when suddenly he is attacked by a woman with an eye patch. We then turn elsewhere to Koken, who is training to also learn from Hakufu's attack from Gokushu. Cut back to Gokushu seeing him hurt by the eye patch girl, Ryomu. Once again, cut back to Koken with Hakufu where Koken explains the color and rank of the Magatamas. Hakufu also noticed that this means by the rules of the Magatamas, Koken is stronger than her, and takes disbelief in that fact. Resuming back to the fight between Gokushu and Ryomu, Ryomu ends the fight by strangling Gokushu with his own arms in a handcuff. Hakufu and Koken overslept and are late for the first day of school. Koken asks her if she is still thinking of challenging Gokushu, to which she replies with her catchphrase, "You have to return what you borrow." Koken ends up tripping and Hakufu runs off without him. We then cut to Sanji and Ryomu talking about all the high school and about ninjutsu. We end the conversation with Sanji asking Ryomu out and questioning Ryomu's strength. Ryomu takes this differently, as she thinks that Sanji is trying to provoke him. When in actuality, he does generally mean what he says. He wants to ask her out. Hakufu, running to class, gets attacked by a hooded man with tonfas. At the same time, Koken gets met at the front gate to a bunch of guys. Hakufu barely able to handle the man in front of her and eventually falls to him, but is saved by Ryomu. This chapter is mainly an extra chapter made to better explain the warrior and Toshin. It's also a good setup chapter for things to come in the future. I think this chapter is really good for, well, setting up things that will be happening very soon. So let's go to the retrospective part of this analysis. Volume 1 does a lot of character building for Hakufu, as well as plant the seed for Koken's character as well. While this is a highly fanservice series, most of the fanservice in Volume 1 is used for comedy. Hakufu first thought when getting her clothes ripped off is funny because she mainly thinks about how mad her mother will be about it. So throughout this retrospective, you will hear me talk about two things. One, translation / localization of Ikki Tousen Manga, and where misconception comes from about the series. First, the official translation / localization of Ikki Tousen from Tokyo Pop. It's trash and has no respect for the source material. Looking into more about Tokyo Pop in terms of recent event and many other things, it's clear that Tokyo Pop pissed off a lot of people in the first place, and they while they did a lot for the Western audience when it came to manga getting over to over here, it's to say the least, their translation, the people that had translated this manga did not care what they were doing. Even the names they changed it to Battle Vexen is disrespectful to the source material, as the guys are just as important as the women of the series, especially later in the series. Ikki Tousen translate into a mighty knight who matches 1,000 knights. So what I'm going to show you from time to time is some really bad translation, or well, localization, if you will, of the Ikki Tousen manga from Tokyo Pop. Thank you to the translator I showed on the screen, who actually took the time to translate the thing. Cause from what I read so far of the Tokyo Pop translation, it's kind of clear that they either A, did not read the source material whatsoever, didn't bother even translating the source material, or B, didn't care at all about the source material. Having characters be out of character and even going so far as to have them be more snarky and sexual than they actually are. Hakufu, for example, is much more snarky and constantly mentions, "Oh, you're looking at my hooters," or whatever, where she is usually more naive and more, not even dense, but just not really aware / doesn't really care about certain things that doesn't involve fighting. That's a big thing about her character, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I hate how they did the localization. Second, the misconception of this series just being a fanservice series. This partly comes from how in your face and somewhat constant the fanservice is. Also because Shiozaki Yuji's previous work Battle Club was everything that people believe Ikki Tousen Manga to be. Just pointless fan service everywhere, and the fan service isn't really used as a joke, and it's just there. The only funny thing I found was the main heroine suplexing a freaking shark. However, it's clear looking at his other works that he was trying to find his footing. And like, he develops a lot. I can't wait to get to like volume 6 when we start seeing how his art style develops, as well as writing and everything else. There's another thing being the anime, because a lot of people will think, oh, the anime is a perfect example for the show, when in actuality the anime isn't, and it's more that the anime took the less serious approach, where they were more fan servicey and added a lot of stuff that wasn't really necessary, and they cut out a lot of things. If I ever get to it, I might do a retrospective / analysis on the Ikki Tousen anime and what they did, how they screwed up certain areas, as well as like what they should have done, as well as trying to understand why they did things the way they did. But from watching the first episode recently, I can say that they probably read a certain part, up to a certain point of the manga. They quickly gave this series an anime and didn't really actually expect certain events to happen as they did. So anyway, that's it for episode 1. I hope you have a nice day. Please come back for the next episode, as we will be discussing volume 2, where a lot of my favorite things in the series happens.